تفضل.
طيب. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه من والاه ما بعد. We're continuing to read from our book قرة العينين بتوضيح معاني عقيدة الرازيين of Abu Hatim and Abu Zur Ar-Rāzziyayn, the foundations, the i'tiqad, the foundations of the sunnah and the creed of this religion. And the sharh that we're reading from is the sharh of Shaykh Rabi' ibn Hadi Umair al-Madkhali Hafidhahullah Ta'ala. We're still speaking about the increase and decrease of Iman. We've reached a part where the Shaykh Rabi', he mentioned, he says, the narration, يخرج من النار من كان في قلبي أدنى مثقال ذرة من إيمان. He said that the person will come out of the hellfire, the Muslim, the Muwahhid, the person of Tawheed, who has even less than an atom's weight of Iman. فعذب الله الزنا من شاء منهم والسراق وقطاع الطرق والمفسدين في الأرض والظالمين المرابين لأنه من عقيدة أهل السنة. That Allah will punish those that commit zina, the fornicators, whoever He wills from them, the thieves, the highway robbers, those that cause corruption upon the earth, the oppressors, those that do take riba or give riba. He will punish them however long He wills, and whoever from them whom He wills. This here is from the Aqīdah of Ahl Sunnah. أنهم لا يكفرون بالذنوب ولا يحكمون على العصاة بالخلود في النار. That from the Aqīdah of Ahl Sunnah is that they do not make takfir, they do not call the one who commits sins, major sin, disbelievers. Nor do they pass a ruling upon those who commit sins that they're in the hellfire forever. In opposition to the Khawarij. The Khawarij who يكفرون بالذنوب ويحكمون على مرتكب الكبيرة أنه يدخل النار ويخلد فيها أبد الآبدين ولا تقبل فيهم شفاعة الشافعين. The Khawarij say, those who make takfir upon the Muslims, make takfir upon the rulers who are Muslims, call to revolting and demonstrations and protests and call to revolutions and like these things, then they pronounce the ruling of takfir upon the one who commits sins. And they rule upon the one who commits major sins that he is in the hellfire forever. And nobody's intercession for this individual be accepted. It's the belief of the Khawarij. And just to clarify, they may not come with direct ways and say the one who commits zina is in the hellfire forever. They may not say the one who steals in the hellfire forever. They may not say like this, except for when it comes to the rulers, and they openly say this with the rulers a lot of times. However, you have one of the Khawarij in our time, famous Khariji, Hadahullah, may Allah guide him. He said like this, أما الرجل المصر على المعصية. As for a man who persists, who continues to commit sins, وهو يعلم أنها معصية. Pay attention to the way they play with words, but the reality is في نهاية المطاف, at the end, they say the same thing as the Khawarij of old, but in a different manner. As for a man, he says, who persists upon a sin or sins, and he knows that it's a sin, فهذا مستحيل. Then this one has made that sin lawful. He said, هذا مستحيل. This individual has made that sin lawful. وهذا كفره ظاهر. Then his disbelief here is apparent. You see that? He says his disbelief here is apparent. Like, for give an example, then he comes and he says, الربا أنا أعلم أنه حرام لكنني سآكله. This example he gives. He says, I know that riba is haram, but I'm going to take it. والزنا حرام ولكنني سأفعله. Zina is haram. I know it's haram, but I'm going to do it. So this Khariji, he comes and he says, هذا مستحل واضح الاستحلال فيه. He said this here is making zina, and this is here making riba halal, and this is clear. This is istihlal. This is making haram halal. No doubt. فلا شك في كفر مثل هذا الرجل. Then there's no doubt in the disbelief of this man. This is a quote of this Khariji who spreads this aqeedah and this belief today. And the ulama have refuted the statement from them, Shaykh Ahmad ibn Yahya al-Najmi. So the statement of the Khawarij, that instead of saying outright that the one who commits a major sin, a disbeliever, instead of saying, for example, the one who commits zina is a kafir, the one who takes riba is a kafir, he comes and he plays games and says, if he says I know it's haram and I do it and I'm going to do it anyways, then this one's a kafir because he made it halal. This is not the case. This is playing with words, the same belief as the Khawarij. When the reality is it not the case that the one who commits a haram, like riba and like zina, knows it's haram? He knows it's haram. It's a major sin. But he does not reach the level of disbelief until he himself makes it halal. And him making it halal is not saying, I know it's haram and I'm going to do it anyways. This is not istihlal. This is the kalam of a Khariji. Naam. So the Shaykh Rabi continues, he says, the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this aspect here is mutawatira. تدل على أن هناك شفاعات في العصاة وفي غير العصاة. That the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mutawatira, so numerous, these narrations about this, which are proof that there is intercessions and different kinds of intercessions for the sinners and for those who don't come, or those who are not sinners. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has numerous shafa'at for inqad al-nasi min al-mawqif. From them is that when he saves the people from the mawqif on Yawm al-Qiyamah. From them, from his shafa'at, his intercession, is he sallallahu alaihi wasallam will intercede for the people of Jannah to enter Jannah. From them, the people who are in Jannah to be raised in rank in Jannah. From them are the people who are supposed to enter the hellfire, not to enter the hellfire, but rather to enter Jannah. From them are those who will enter the hellfire, who are in the hellfire to be taken out of the hellfire. And from them is intercession for Abu Talib. And this is specific for Abu Talib, that he will have the least punishment on Yawm al-Qiyamah, thinking that he has the worst punishment. He will be made to wear shoes of the hellfire, and it will be placed on his feet, or he will be in the shallow part of the hellfire, and he will make his brain boil, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, and he will think he will have the worst of punishment. So here, at the mawqif on Yawm al-Qiyamah, that the people will go to Adam alayhi salam, seeking intercession from Adam, فَيَعْتَذِرْ وَيَسْتَحِي مِنْ رَبِّهِ. He will excuse himself. He will excuse himself, and he will be too shy in front of his Lord on that day. لأنه أخطأ بأكل الشجرة ويقول, because he made a mistake. He made a mistake from when he ate from the tree, and he will say, as Adam alayhi salam, إن ربي غضب اليوم غضبا لم يغضب قبله مثله ولن يغضب بعده مثله. That he will say that indeed my Lord is angry today. He is angry today. He has not been angry like this before, and he will not be angry like this after this. So then the people, Adam alayhi salam, يحيل إلى نوح لأنه أول رسول أرسل إلى أهل الأرض. Adam alayhi salam will point them towards Nuh. And Nuh alayhi salam is because he was the first messenger sent to the people of the earth. فيعتذر نوح عليه الصلاة والسلام ويستحي من ربي يشفع. And Nuh alayhi salam will likewise at the same time or he likewise will excuse himself. And he will be too shy from his Lord to intercede, because he will see a mistake that he made in his da'wah. And his da'wah, ala qawmi fa'ahlakahum Allah. His dua that he made against his people for Allah to destroy them. This would be his excuse. Nuh alayhi salam. Faqat, this is it. Because of this thing here, his dua that he made against his people, this would be Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam excuse. He will fear Allah Azza wa Jalla on that day because of this. يستحي من أمر واحد يراه ذنبا أحسن من حسناتنا. That Nuh alayhi salam will be too shy from this single affair here. He will see it to be a sin. However, it's better than our good deeds. Nuh alayhi salam يستحي من الله تبارك وتعالى فلنستحي من الله حق الحياء في كل شيء من أمور حياتنا. نعم. That there's one thing here that Nuh alayhi salam will see to be a sin. He will be too shy from Allah Azza wa Jal. Have too much shame in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. So shall we, us today, us people here, not be too shy? And shall we not be shy and be ashamed? Truly, from every single thing in our lives that we do. The Shaykh, he said, Nuh alayhi salam would then say, إن ربي غضب اليوم غضبا لم يغضب قبله مثله ولن يغضب بعده مثله اذهب إلى غيري اذهبوا إلى إبراهيم. He will say, indeed my Lord today is angry, and he has not been angry like this before, and he will not be angry like this after. Go to other than me. This is Nuh. Go to Ibrahim. Subhanallah. Go to Ibrahim alayhi salam. وكذلك إبراهيم عليه الصلاة والسلام كذب كذبات وهي توريات ليست كذبات حقيقية اعتبرها كذبا واعتبرها معصية هو يخجل من الله أن يشفع ويقول. So likewise Ibrahim alayhi salam, he himself, يعني when he didn't lie, but he committed what he called tawriyah. They're not lies, but he considered them at that time to be a lie. Yeah, and you say something in which you intend one thing, but to the person something else is intended. For example, if somebody comes to me, and I'm sitting with Abdurrahman. Abdurrahman is my brother in Islam, but he's not my brother in lineage. Somebody asks me a question, and I say, Naam, he's my brother. It's Abdurrahman, here's my brother. But to the person who I'm speaking to, he thinks that it's my brother in lineage, but I intend brother in Islam. It's not a lie. It's true in its meaning. I intended one thing, and he thinks one thing. It's a tawriyah. So it's allowed at times. And Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen said one shouldn't use this all the time. So if a person catches him in that, and he may then accuse him of lying. So it's used when there's a need. It can be used now. And there's details to it. However, Ibrahim alayhi salam will consider what he did of tawriyah to be a lie, even though he did not lie. He did not lie. He will consider on that day to be a sin. And he'll be shy. And he'll be ashamed in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. And he'll be too shy and too much. He'll feel too much khajal to seek intercession in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. He will say, Ibrahim, Abu al-Anbiya, إن ربي غضب اليوم غضبا لم يغضب قبله مثله ولن يغضب بعده مثله نفسي نفسي. He will say, indeed my Lord is angry today. He has never been angry like this before, nor will he be angry like this in the future. He will say, myself, 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 myself. ويحيلهم على موسى alayhi salam. He will then point them towards Musa alayhi salatu wassalam. قتل قبطيا ظالما كافرا واعتبر هذا من سيئاته في الدنيا والآخرة وعفى الله عنه في الدنيا. That Musa alayhi salam, he killed a oppressive, tyrannical, disbelieving Coptic. He killed an oppressive, a tyrannical, disbelieving Coptic. And Musa alayhi salam will consider this from his bad deeds in the dunya and akhirah, even though Allah Azza wa Jal forgave him in the dunya. Even though Allah forgave him in the dunya. مع توبة الله عليهم ومغفرة الله لهم ورفعه لدرجاتهم واختيارهم للنبوات والرسالات، مع ذلك هم يخجلون من الله من تلك الأخطاء عليهم الصلاة والسلام. That even though Allah forgave him in the dunya, and likewise Allah Azza wa Jal, He accepted their repentance and forgave them, these prophets, and raised them in rank and chose them for prophethood and chose them for messengership. Even with that, they will be too shy and ashamed in front of Allah Azza wa Jal from these mistakes. Alayhimus salatu wassalam. These are the prophets and messengers. Yani, what about us and our mistakes and our errors that we commit knowingly, unknowingly, intentionally, unintentionally? Do we make tawbah from them? Or do we leave them and say, I'll make tawbah tomorrow, I'll make tawbah next week? This is the month. Shahrul Ghafran, Shahr al-Tawbah, the month of seeking Allah's forgiveness, the month of Tawbah, the month of the Quran. This here is the month to return and to strengthen them connection with Allah Azza wa Jal. Ay na'am. So Musa alayhi salam, he will say, Inna Rabbi ghadib al-yawm ghadban lam yaghdab qablahu mithlah ولن يغضب بعده مثله نفسي نفسي اذهبوا إلى غيري اذهبوا إلى عيسى. So Musa alayhi salam will say the same thing. Indeed, my Lord is angry today. He has not been angry like this before, nor he'll be angry like this in the future. Myself, go to other than me. Go to Isa. Go to Isa. فَيَأْتُونَ إِلَى عِيسَى فَيَقُولُ. They will go to Isa and they will say, or he will say to them, Isa alayhi salam, إن ربي غضب اليوم غضبا لم يغضب قبله مثله ولن يغضب بعده مثله نفسي نفسي. Isa alayhi salam will say, indeed my Lord is angry today. He has not been angry like this before, and he will not be angry like this in the future. Myself, go to other than me. Go to other than me. Myself. فيحيلهم إلى محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام ومحمد يقول أنا لها. He will then point them towards Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who will say, I am for this intercession. So he will go, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ويخر ساجدا بين يدي الله تبارك وتعالى ويشفع في ذلك الموقف الرهيب الذي تدنو فيه الشمس من الناس. He will fall down into prostration, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in front of Allah Azza wa Jal, seeking intercession, seeking Allah's intercession on that day, at that position, at that time, at that scary moment, at the mawqif, in which the sun will come close to the people. The sun will be close to a people, very, very close to them. حتى يغرق الكثير منهم في العرق. منهم من يبلغ عرق إلى قدميه ومنهم إلى ركبتيه ومنهم إلى حقويه ومنهم إلى صدره ومنهم من يلجمه العرق الجامة. On that day when the sun will be close to the people, until some of them will be drowned in their sweat. From them are those who their sweat will reach their feet. From them are those whose sweat will reach their knees. From them are those who their sweat will reach their loins. From them are those whose their sweat will reach their chest. And from them are those who will be absolutely submerged and drowned in their own sweat. And you can go back to Sahih Muslim, Kitab al-Iman, for this long hadith. So the people, في أهوال لا يعلمها إلا الله تبارك وتعالى من هذا الموقف. مؤمنهم وكافرهم. that the people, these horrors, these terrors on Yawm al-Qiyamah, no one will know their true reality except Allah Azza wa Jal. The believers and likewise the disbelievers. إِلَّا سَبْعَةً يُذِلُّهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي ذِلِّهِ يَوْمَ لَا ذِلَّ إِلَّا ذِلُّهُ. Except for 7 people, 7 types of people, 7 types of people Allah will shade in His shade on a day when there's no shade except His shade. الناس في هذا الأمر الشديد والأمر الرهيب هم في ظل أرش الله بأعمالهم الصالحة. That the people, this affair will be severe. Right? That affair will be scary. And there will be people who will be at ease, resting in the shade of Allah Azza wa Jal, in the shade of the Arsh of Allah Azza wa Jal, which He created for them, the shade, for their actions, because of their righteous actions. As He says in a hadith, in Bukhari and Muslim, on Abi Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala an, 7 people Allah will shade in His shade, يَوْمَ لَا ذِلَّ إِلَّا ذِلْهُ, on a day when there's no shade except for His shade, on that day when the sun is near. The sun is near, you can imagine the heat when the sun is real close. The distance of a meal, a short distance, very short distance. There will be 7 types of people who will be resting in that shade. Otherwise, we said earlier, people will be drowned in sweat. Some are up to their feet, some up to their knees, some to their loins, some to their chest. Some will be drowned in sweat, except for these 7 types of people. The first one, as He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, al-imam al-adil, a just ruler, a just imam. And the second one, shabun nash'a fi ibadati rabbihi. The second one is a youth who was raised upon worshipping his Lord. The third one, رجل قلبه معلق في المساجد, is a man whose heart is connected to the masjids. His heart is connected to the masjid. The next one, the fourth one, رجلان تحابا في الله اجتمع عليه وتفرق عليه, is that 2 men, 2 people love each other for the sake of Allah. They meet upon this and they leave upon this. Nothing separates them except for death. ورجل طلبته امرأة ذات منصب وجمال فقال إني أخاف الله. And the next person is a man who, a woman with high rank and beauty, seeks him, calls him to do fornication or some type of fahisha, and he says, إني أخاف الله, I fear Allah Azza wa Jal. And ورجل تصدق أخفى حتى لا تعلم شماله ما تنفق يمينه. And a person, a man, likewise a woman, who gives sadaqah and he conceals it to the extent that his left hand does not know what his right hand spends in sadaqah. Sincerity. وَرَجُلٌ, the last one is a man or a woman. This applies to both. ذكر الله خاليا ففاضت عيناه, that he makes dhikr of Allah. He remembers Allah in private and his eyes shed tears. I want to stop quickly with this hadith. It's an amazing hadith. And kind of mention certain benefits in brief, in summary, regarding this hadith before we continue. That this hadith is an amazing, tremendous hadith. That it deserves for us to go over certain benefits of this hadith. So inshallah we can strive to be from these 7 people. Because remember, this hadith applies to the elders, to the youngsters, to the children, to the youth, every single person here. And whether you're 12, 13, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 25, 30, 40, 50, to the end of it, you can enter into this hadith. And you should strive to enter into this hadith. That the first one is the just Imam, the Al-Imam Al-Adil. It's just, and again, it's mentioned when you read this hadith, the males, huh? However, the females do enter in this hadith too. لا مفهوم له. It doesn't just intend the males, it intends the females too. But there's no doubt that the just Imam, who's just over his subjects, he's a just king, a just Khalifa, a just president, whatever, he's just upright, just with the people, that his justice benefits others, his uprightness benefits the lands, benefits the conditions of the slaves, no doubt. That they'll be at ease, they'll be at peace, they'll be in serenity, they'll be chilling, as it say. That this person's Islam, then because of his justness, he will establish the punishments of Allah Azza wa Jal, the punishments which Allah ordained. Then you will find justice and uprightness spreading in his land because of his justice. Whoever of you reads or listens to lectures and likes to these things, and you read the history of the Muslims, and you read, for example, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, about him, that it was said about Umar bin Abdul Aziz, this just Imam, just Khalifa, that when he died, he was just. We always say, khair muta'addin, that goodness and being just, it benefits yourself and others. It'll benefit the lands, the animals, the people, everybody else, hatta even the kuffar. That when Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he died, اعتدى ذئب على غنمه, that a wolf transgressed upon a sheep. He ate it. So this person, he said, when he saw that, he said the just Khalifa has died. When the wolf struck, transgressed, and attacked and ate the sheep, this man said the just Imam has died. The Khalifatul Adil mat. So a person said to him, Ma yudrik, why do you say this? فذهبوا فوجدوا الخبر كما كان. So when they went, they found that the news was true, like he said. So they asked about him. They asked him about why he said that. And why did this man say that the just Imam has died? So when they went to see, they found the just Imam, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, has indeed died. So they went back to this man. Why did you say this and how did you know this? He said, كان الذئب لا يأكل من الغنم فلما أكل من الغنم عرفت أن عمر قد مات. He said, because at the time that we lived in, the wolves did not attack the sheep. They never attacked the sheep. They never attacked the sheep. They never ate the sheep. But when they ate from the sheep and this wolf attacked the sheep, then I knew that Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he died. Subhanallah. This is the justice of the A'immah. This is the proof that justice and uprightness and being just with the people, it benefits others, and the benefits of it is far-reaching. This hadith, like the ulama, they mention about this point here, that the just Imam, then this, the ulama, they say, every single person who's in charge of something of the Muslims, then he enters into this hadith. It doesn't just mean that the Khalifa or the Imam, but every person who has some authority over the Muslims, then he enters into this hadith. And this also entails a Muslim who is in charge of his employees. He has to be just with them, inshallah, enter this hadith. Likewise, the father over his children. Likewise, the mother over her children. The Messenger of Allah, he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إن المقسطين عند الله على منابر من نور عن يمين الرحمن. That he said, indeed, those who are just and with Allah, they will be on the right, they will be على منابر من نور and يمين الرحمن, on the right side, on pulpits of light of Ar-Rahman. Who are these? These are those who are just, those who rule with justice amongst their people and their families. They're just with the people. So again, whether it be a father being just when it comes to spending with his children, and giving gifts to his children and dealing with them and not showing treatment, preferential treatment for one over the other, except if there's a legitimate reason. For example, one child's getting married, he gives him more money to aid him in his marriage. Other ones are not getting married. Here he's allowed. But when you're just giving money to your children, you have to be just. Except you say to them, whoever memorizes this surah, for him it's $50. So they compete, only one memorizes it, he gives them 50. This is being just. This does not count as a person giving preferential treatment. Here he has a reason. But if you're just giving just to give and just spending upon them just to spend, you have to do so evenly. Likewise, between the wives, if a person has more than one wife, he has to be just with them. He has to be just with them. He's not allowed to distinguish one wife over the other. He has to split time with them. He has to provide for them equally, unless one family is bigger than the other, or one of them has to go to the hospital and you have to pay X amount of money for their cure, and that's a different issue. Naam. So this is an amazing hadith, an opportunity for every single person who has authority over the Muslims, and the Muslims are whether they're their children, or an older brother and he has young siblings, or an older sister and she has young siblings. All this enters into this hadith. Or a person, a principal at a school, or a boss at the job, would like to say these things, or owner of a company who has employees who are Muslim, or hatta even non-Muslims. Naam. And the second one is a shab, is a young child, is the youth. Is a youth who was raised on worshipping his Lord. Because as we know, the young child or the youth, that his desires are very strong. The motives to follow his desires are strong. So this youth, خالف الشاب الشهوة في نفسه والهوى المستعر الذي تحمله عليه نفسه. That his youth, he's opposed his desires which are strong in him, his desires which are inside him, which urge him to commit sin, but instead of that, he adheres to worship Allah Azza wa Jal, despite his desires, despite his young age, his taqwa, his piety, his righteousness, his fear of Allah, his being raised upon that, being from awliya of Allah, overcome his desires. No doubt, especially in this time, the youth being nurtured and being raised upon worship of Allah is sa'ab, is difficult in our time, especially in a time لأن المغريات كثيرة والدواعي للفاحشة كثيرة وأبواب الحرام كثيرة والزينة التي تكون على الحرام كثيرة. Because these things which in these times, as we all know, as we all see, that the desires and the calls to sin, the calls to fahisha, lewdness, the call to wickedness and wretchedness and evilness and zina and homosexuality and the likes of these things are all widespread. All in entertainment, social media widespread. Men, women, this is a time in which there are people are committing sins and wickedness and evilness, males and females, in which is like no other. It wasn't like this in the past. But today you find that the social media beautifies sins. The social media beautifies kufr. A university beautifies kufr and sins. You go to study something, women are dressed like what? Wallah al-musta'an. Everywhere you look, on TV, on the social media, in the stores, in the schools, at your work, you go to the park, every single place you find, especially for the youth. It's difficult, no doubt, to be patient upon these haram and to be patient to keep away from these movies. You find the Muslims beautifying movies with filth, just like the kuffar. You find Muslims praising and beautifying these kuffar, these athletes, just because their ability to throw a ball into the net or kick a ball into the net. You find them beautiful, or catch a ball and run to the end zone. You find them beautifying these people and praising them as if these are Sahaba, as if these are Umar bin Abdul Aziz, as if these are the likes of Awza'i. Yani one of them, Magic Johnson, recently just is now accepting his son transit or dressing like a woman, being a transvestite. These are the stars who the Muslims are glorifying today. Wallahu musta'an. And these are the things which were faced and the youth are faced. That if a youth is patient, not like some of the people about, they say today, allow the youth to explore. Allow them to commit sin, no problem. Allow them to go. Allow them to get experience. You find these calls today. Or you find masajid today praising the likes of these kuffar. Praising them as if we're created to praise them and we're created to run behind them. And these are our examples. Abadan. That if a patient, that today you find that a Muslim being tried with taking pictures, even though the threat for picture making is severe. You find the Muslims taking pictures. And Shaykh Al-Bani said after a time will come where the Salafi will be tried with taking pictures. Wallahi, back in the days, we used to laugh at Ahlul Bid'ah for taking pictures. You remember that? We used to say, look at them, the Imams take pictures, look at them. Today you find the Salafis now tried with taking pictures. Even though the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, أَشَدُّ النَّاسِ عَذَابًا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ الْمُصَوِّرُونَ, that the most severely punished people on Yawm al-Qiyamah are those who make pictures. Those ulama like Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh Al-Bani, Sheikh Muqbil, Sheikh Rabi' al-Dhannam, Sheikh Ahmed al-Najmi, who forbid taking pictures. They have texts, hadith which are clear and frank, and the punishment for them are severe. But those who say otherwise, all they have with them is opinions and ta'wilat. That's it. Hey, naam. So for a youth to be patient upon the likes of these things, to keep away from the likes of these things, in the haram, the muharramat, such as zina, such as mixing between the sexes, the likes of these things, and this requires a lot of patience and iman. And that's why the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, that's why he said that the youth who keeps away from the haram, that the youth, الشاب نشأ في عبادة ربه, that one of those who will be in the shade of Allah, the shade which Allah created on that day, when there's no shade except for that shade when the sun is close, is a youth who's raised upon the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. So don't think just because you're forbidding your children participating in the haram that they're missing out. La, these people in Yawm al-Qiyamah, these kuffar, they're gonna miss out on that shade. Yawm al-Qiyamah, your child who's raised upon worshiping Allah, he's inshallah gonna be on that shade, in that shade. For an example, the summertime it comes, where we are in California, it's becoming hot now, weather's heating up. The people want to go to theme parks. They want to go to water parks. We say, do not go. Do not go. Them places are filthy, especially the water parks. And theme parks are filthy. The way the women dress, the music, the concerts, you're mixing with them and you're seeing how they dress. Muharramat in every place. Keep away from that. It's better for you. Inshallah, if you keep away from that, inshallah, to keep away from that haram, inshallah, we hope that we can enter into that hadith. Because we kept away from that which is haram. Patient upon keeping away from that which is haram. This is shab, nasha'a fi ibadati rabbi. This is a child, a youth, being nurtured and raising upon the worship of his Lord. Because keeping away from haram is worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the third one, wallahi, amazing hadith. The third one, obviously we can go on and on, we can explain from the explanation of the ulama. A single group of people can, in a whole lecture, however time, in short, inshallah, we're going to continue. The third one is رجل قلبه معلق في المساجد, is a man whose heart is connected to the masjid. His heart is connected to the masjid. He adheres to the masajid for his salawat. He waits. Salat, salah. He does i'tikaf in the masjid. He loves to attend the durus, the circles of knowledge in the masajid. Wal-hirs. He strives in connecting himself to the masajid because the masjid is the most beloved place to Allah Azza wa Jal. The masjid is the most beloved place to Allah Azza wa Jal. And you find that the people today, a lot of them, they don't like going to the masjid. They like going to the malls, to the stores, to the places where the people are. And because they feel like they're missing out on something. If I stick in the masjid or only be in the masjid, it's like I'm in a tunnel. But if I'm in the mall, I get to see new things and I get to see the beauty of the dunya. These type of individuals, if they keep away from the masjids, don't come to the masjids, don't like attending the masjids, and they love going to the malls, even though the most beloved place to Allah is the masjid, and the most hated place to Allah are the marketplaces, that these ones are not going to be in the shade of Allah Azza wa Jal on that day when there's no shade except His shade. And the next one, رجلان تحابا في الله, رجلان تحابا في الله اجتمع عليه وتفرق عليه. The two people who meet for the sake of Allah, they love for the sake of Allah and then they leave each other for the sake of Allah. Mean their suhbah, their companionship, that whole time that they were companions was for the sake of Allah, not for wealth. He didn't love his companion for money or because they're relatives or because of something in the dunya that we're co-workers and we're upon the same job, so I love you for this and that's it. Or we're together. Once I retire, you retire, we're not in contact no more, abadan. That having mahabba, this love, is worship. Loving your brother for the sake of Allah is from tawheed. Loving your brother for the sake of Allah shows you your oneness in Allah Azza wa Jal. Why? Because you may have a brother who's Muslim, who's weak when it comes to dunya, but you love him because you share that same iman. You share that same aqidah. You are upon the aqidah of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Even though they can be a person of bid'ah, who has wealth, who has money, who drives a Tesla, who has kada wa kada, but he's a person of bid'ah and you hate him for his bid'ah. An individual such as Yasir Qadi, you hate him for the sake of Allah. Another individual who's poor, you love him for the sake of Allah because of his aqidah, his salima, his manhaj is sound. Like Allah says in the Quran, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذْ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. That from the people are those who take besides Allah as rivals. They love these rivals like they love Allah. Those who believe, then they love Allah more. They love Allah with more severity. So this is proof that love for the sake of Allah is from Tawheed. That you're not to love shirk like you love Tawheed, abadan. You're to hate shirk. You're not to love idols, abadan at all. You're to love Allah Azza wa Jal. We are not like they want to make us seem, the United Nations and the Democrats, meaning Ahlul Demokratiya, those of democracy, those today, liberals today, that we love all. We don't love all. That we're all the same. We're not all the same. The Muslim is not like the Kafir. The Muslim is not like the Fajr. We love the Muslim and hate the Fajr. We love the Muslim and hate the Kafir. Regardless of what those that water down their wala wal bara may want you to think. The al-wala wal bara lillah azza wa jal is from at-tawheed. That from the signs of muhabba, from the signs that you love for the sake of Allah, and that your love for the sake of Allah is sincere for Allah Azza wa Jal, is that you love this individual only for Allah, not for the dunya. Look at what Abdullah ibn Abbas he said. He said, لَقَدْ صَارَ عَامَّةَ مُؤَاخَاةِ النَّاسِ الْيَوْمِ عَلَى أَمْرِ الدُّنْيا. SubhanAllah, during the time of Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said the majority of the people's brotherhood today is for the dunya. SubhanAllah. Ibn Abbas, during the time when the Sahaba were widespread, he said, and he wasn't speaking about the Sahaba but others. He said rather the majority of the generality of the people, brotherhood today is for the dunya. This is during the time of Abdullah ibn Abbas. So check your connections with the people, your connection with the Muslims, your connection with Ahlul Sunnah. Yani when you're sick, do you visit them for the sake of Allah? And when you have that connection for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, that you love the Muslims, that for their Eid you visit them, when they're sick you visit them, when they need sadaqah you give them, when they're alone you see them. Unlike the kuffar, who, that's why they work up until they're 70 and 80, or they strive to, because they have no other connection but with their co-workers. Their families are finished. They get dogs, and their dogs are their connections now. This is their sad reality. At times it's funny, but it's a sad reality, to where if you turn away from Islam, this is what you're facing today, especially in the West, that you don't want to retire, because if you retire you're alone, and if you retire from your job you're going to be forced to get a dog, and this dog is going to be your companion. This is a sad reality. This is what they want from the Muslim woman. Come out your house, go get a job, work full time. Forget about your children. Don't have children, they hold you back. Forget about grandchildren. Come work 50, 40 years, get a career, pursue a career. Don't worry about your husband, don't obey him. Obey Tim and Ted and Joe and Bob at your co-workers, obey them. Be with them. Wear makeup for them. Wear perfume for them. But if you do that for your husband, you're oppressive and tyrannical. But when you do it for these kuffar or these co-workers, you're good and you're advanced. Up until this lady who they took out, working 40, 50 years, not having no children, one child, who left to pursue a career in different state, different place. She retires. She's alone in a retirement home. Or she has a dog. She dies with a dog. She left behind a dog. This is the reality of the kuffar. As for the Muslim, the Muslimah who chose to worship her Lord, who chose to have a connection with her Lord, and chose not to free mix with the woman, chose to be a wife to her husband, a mother to her children, had many children, raised them, had grandchildren. Her family grew to the point when she's old, she's amongst her children and her grandchildren, their spouse, and likes it that she's continuing. When Eid comes, a lot of family around her. Whenever any occasion comes, family all around her, she's never alone. This is the difference between the Muslim and the Kafir. Only if the Muslims stick to their deen and stick to their Aqīdah. Because today, as we know, that they want you, we're in the part where he said two people love and hate for the sake of Allah, or they love for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. They gather upon this love and they leave upon this. Yani today, in our time today, the people want you to love for desires. They want you to love the kafir. If you don't love the kafir, you're extreme. They want you to love the homosexual. If you don't love this homosexual, you're extreme. They want you to fight for their causes. If you don't do so, you're extreme. We reject that and we refuse and reject to follow these disbelieving, misguided, misleading calls to kufr, calls to destroying your religion. No, Muslim, your Aqīdah, your deen will protect you from this batil. Aynam. So the next one is أيما رجل طلبته امرأة ذات منصب وجمال فقال إني أخاف الله. Is that a man who a woman calls him with rank and beauty And he says to her, I fear Allah. That in this society which you live in today, according to the kuffar, a person who does this, they call him weak, and they'll make fun of him. However, with Allah Azza wa Jal, there's something praiseworthy. That when a woman of high rank, a woman of beauty calls you, you refuse. You refuse. You refuse that fahisha, that call to fuhsh, that call to lewdness, that call to filth. A Muslim refuses it because he fears Allah Azza wa Jal, despite what the people praise today. Because it's praiseworthy today to commit zina. It's praiseworthy today to be filthy. And it's not praiseworthy today to be trustworthy. It's not praiseworthy in what they beautify themselves. Na'am. That is a must at this time, that you remember your taqwa and you fear Allah Azza wa Jal, and you stay away from the means that will lead you to zina. You keep away from the music, the movies. You keep away from the places of mixing. Wallahi, especially universities. The filthiest place today that I've seen is university. I haven't seen a more filthier place. A place where the banner of the shaitan is upright. Wallahi, the universities are far worse than the marketplaces. The universities today, a place of filth, a place of kufr, a place of shayateen, a place where they cast doubts. And the Muslim woman goes there wearing a scarf. She leaves there doubting her religion. So widespread today. Na'am. And likewise, he said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that the one who gives sadaqah to where his left hand does not know what his right hand gives, meaning this shows that he's sincere. This shows that he hides his givings from the people. He hides his sadaqat from the people. That he gives sadaqah, he doesn't want the people to know that which he gives. This shows that a person is sincere, that he does actions for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the last one is the one who, when he remembers Allah Azza wa Jal, khaliyan fafadat aynah, that when he remembers Allah in private, his eyes shed tears. That when he mentions Allah in private, he remembers Allah in private, he may read the Quran in private, make dua in private, do dhikr of Allah in private, pray in private, or enjoin the good and forbid the evil in private, nobody's around him. His eyes shed tears. Because remember, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam sought refuge. He sought refuge min aynin la tadma. He sought refuge from an eye that does not shed tears. The Messenger of Allah sought refuge from an eye which does not shed tears. Wallahu al-musta'an. Wa alayhi tuklan. We ask Allah to make us from those who shed tears in private out of fear of Allah Azza wa Jal. Inshallah, we're going to continue, and then we'll end at the end of this page here. So the point here is الشاهد أن الإيمان ينقص وينقص وينقص وهؤلاء ناقص الإيمان. That the point here is that Iman, it becomes deficient and less and less and less. So these people are those who are deficient in Iman. That the one who abandons the Salah, يعاقب عقوبة شديدة. That the one who leaves the Salah is severely punished. Many of the ulama make takfir upon him. The one who does not give the zakah, then he will be thrown on his back in a vast desert plain. He does not give the zakah. He will be thrown on his back in a vast desert plain. And camels will trample him with their hoofs. Camels, a herd of camels will trample him. And they'll bite him. And they will continue to do so. If he's a person who owns camels, does not give the zakah on these camels that he has. And likewise, if a person has cows, he does not give zakah on these cows. These cows will trample him. These herd of cows and will trample him and bite him and gore him with their horns. Likewise, sheep and goats, if he does not give zakah upon them, they will trample him. And when the last herd from the herd of goats or the herd of sheep, when they trample him, likewise the camels and likewise the cows, and they will gore him and bite him. When they trample him, the last goat, camel, or cow that tramples him, then the first one will go back over him again. And this will continue and continue and continue. في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة. This will continue on a day where that day will be for 50,000 years. This hadith, which is Sahih Muslim, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that there's not a person who has silver or gold. He does not give his right, meaning zakah. إلا كان يوم القيامة صفحت له صفائح من نار. Except يوم القيامة, sheets or plates of fire will be heated. فأحمي عليه في نار جهنم. Then these sheets or plates of fire will be heated for him with the fire of Jahannam. فيقوى بها جنبه وجبينه وظهره. Then his sides and his forehead and his back will be branded with these plates of the hellfire. And every time they become cool, they will be heated again on a day with the time or that the limit, that miqdaruhu, that the time frame of that day will be 50,000 years. حتى يقضى بين العباد فيرى سبيله إما إلى الجنة وإما إلى النار. So then it will be judged, his place, he will be judged between him. Then the slaves will be judged. He will see his place either in Jannah or in the hellfire. Some of the ulama used to make takfir upon the one who does not give the zakah. But that which is correct is because of this hadith. As Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen said, if it wasn't for this hadith, then we likewise would make takfir upon the one who leaves the zakah. Because the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, حَتَّى يُقْضَى بَيْنَ الْعِبَادِ. Up until then, judgment will be made between the slaves. This is the one who does not give the zakah. Then he will see his place either in Jannah or in the hellfire. And if he was a kafir, he would not see his place in Jannah. Inshallah, we'll stop here and continue tomorrow. Wa sallallahu sallam ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.